On the morning of April 30th, 1980, the conflict inside Iran suddenly arrived in the heart of London. 6 armed men stormed the Iranian Embassy at 16 Prince's Gate, taking more than 24 people hostage. But this was not a random attack. It was the result of years of anger building far from Britain, in Iran's oil-rich province of Khuzestan, a region many Arab separatists called Arabistan. After the 1979 Iranian Revolution, some Arab groups hoped the new government in Tehran would grant them more autonomy. Instead, the Islamic Republic tightened its control. Protests were suppressed. Activists were arrested. One militant group, the Democratic Revolutionary Front for the Liberation of Arabistan, decided that if Tehran would not listen, the world would have to. Their target was the Iranian Embassy in London. Their weapon was not just guns, it was international attention. April 30th, 1980, 11:30 a.m. A car pulls up to the embassy in South Kensington. 6 men step out, armed with Scorpion submachine guns and automatic pistols. They sprint across the street, shatter the glass entrance, and burst through the front doors, firing wildly into the air. The building instantly descends into chaos. Within minutes, 26 people, embassy staff, British civilians, and journalists are violently rounded up and herded into a few confined rooms. At the entrance, diplomatic constable Trevor Locke is quickly overpowered. But before the gunman can strip him of his gear, Locke subtly presses the panic button on his radio lapel. That single silent transmission alerts Scotland Yard to a developing crisis in the heart of the British capital. London Metropolitan Police secure the building's perimeter, locking down the streets before the gunmen can fully fortify their positions or set up booby traps. But the authorities quickly realize they aren't dealing with ordinary criminals. The attackers are disciplined. They move with military precision. They show no interest in robbery, ransom, or escape vehicles. This is a political operation. But a group of desperate separatists from Khuzestan does not just walk into central London with military-grade weaponry. To pull off a siege of this magnitude, they needed money, training, and a state sponsor. And they found an eager partner in Iraqi President Saddam Hussein, looking to destabilize Iran and annex the oil-rich territory. The Iraqi government financed the militants, trained them in close-quarters combat, and smuggled their weapons into London hidden completely undetected inside Iraqi diplomatic bags. The leader of the cell, Owan Ali Mohammed, makes his terms clear. Iran must release 91 Khuzestani prisoners, or every hostage inside the embassy will be executed.
We have some demand to get what we want. The 391 prisoners.
You want 91 prisoners in Iran to be set free.
What had initially appeared to be an isolated terrorist attack is rapidly revealed as something much larger. A regional struggle inside Iran has expanded into an international crisis involving 2 rival Middle Eastern states, unfolding in the middle of Britain's capital, under the gaze of the world's media. This is no longer a localized police standoff. An international proxy war between Iran and Iraq has just spilled onto the streets of London, and Trevor Locke's panic button had just woken up a military machine sleeping hundreds of miles away. 130 miles away, about 210 kilometers at their headquarters in Herefordshire, the men of the 22nd Special Air Service Regiment are oblivious to the unfolding crisis. They are busy running hostage rescue drills inside the infamous Killing House, a grueling, live ammunition training facility. Cardboard targets. In training, every variable is tightly controlled. Every flashbang lands precisely. Every breach is synchronized to the millisecond. Under the command of Lieutenant Colonel Michael Rose, the elite counter-terrorism unit immediately mobilizes for London. While the operators check their weapons, the political war room establishes the rules of engagement. Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher and Home Secretary William Whitelaw agree on a rigid, uncompromising strategy. The London Metropolitan Police will handle the negotiations. They will talk, they will delay, and they will try to exhaust the terrorists. But there will be absolutely no political concessions. And Thatcher draws a definitive red line. If the militants execute even a single hostage, the police will step aside. The SAS will storm the embassy. But launching a military assault in the middle of a major European capital carries a terrifying price tag. Director de la Billière delivers a cold dose of reality to the British government. The embassy is a Victorian fortress, 5 floors, 50 rooms, heavy oak doors, and reinforced glass. The stairwells are narrow, fatal funnels. If the SAS breaches, they will have to fight uphill, pushing through physical choke points while the terrorists hold the high ground. The combat will be room to room. The enemy will have seconds to execute hostages before the operators can physically reach them. The SAS director presents the grim mathematical truth. Even if the assault is executed flawlessly, the absolute best-case scenario, he estimates that 40% of the hostages will become casualties. Despite the horrific projection, the British government does not flinch. The red line holds. If the terrorist leader, Owan, pulls the trigger, the SAS will unleash hell, fully expecting to carry body bags out of the embassy. May 1st to May 4th. The standoff settles into a tense, agonizing rhythm. 26 hostages are crammed into a few rooms, sleeping on the floor, breathing stale air. The psychological toll of living at gunpoint begins to crack both the captives and their captors. On the surface, the police employ a strategy of exhaustion. They negotiate for food. They negotiate for time. The militants demand their manifesto be heard, and the authorities agree, but only to extract concessions. When the BBC broadcasts Owan's demands to the British public, the terrorist leader honors his end of the bargain. He releases 4 hostages over the course of several days. Each release sparks a glimmer of hope that the crisis might be resolved without a single shot fired. While the police keep Owan talking at the front door, British intelligence is systematically dismantling his sanctuary from the outside in. MI5 specialists scale the adjacent buildings. They need to plant covert listening devices into the embassy's shared walls to map the exact locations of the gunmen and their captives. But drilling through solid brick generates distinct mechanical noise. To mask the sound, the British government quietly executes an extraordinary logistical maneuver. They contact air traffic control and reroute incoming passenger flights bound for Heathrow Airport. Jetliners are instructed to fly at unusually low altitudes directly over the embassy in South Kensington. Every time the deafening roar of a commercial jet engine washes over the building, MI5 drills deeper. The militants inside hear nothing but heavy London traffic and low-flying planes. Without realizing it, Owan and his men are standing inside a massive, invisible intelligence net. Down the street, the operators of the SAS wait in a makeshift holding area. They sleep in their body armor. Their weapons remain loaded. They study smuggled blueprints until they know every hallway blindly. They track the shifting moods of the hostage takers through the audio feeds, waiting for an order that might never come. The psychological siege is working. The isolation is slowly crushing the militants' resolve, and the standoff could easily drag on for weeks until a message from Tehran changes everything. May 5th, day 6 of the siege. The police strategy of exhaustion has clearly run its course, and Owan's patience has finally reached a breaking point. Yet the catalyst for the coming violence doesn't originate from London. It arrives directly from Tehran. A telegram from the Iranian foreign minister reaches the hostages, offering no diplomatic off-ramp or concessions. Instead, it delivers a death sentence disguised as praise, assuring the captives that they are ready for martyrdom alongside their nation. Owan reads the communication and realizes that Tehran has no intention of negotiating. His entire geopolitical strategy has collapsed, rendering his hostages entirely useless as bargaining chips. 1:45 p.m., a sudden burst of gunfire echoes from inside the building. For 5 agonizing hours, police negotiators attempt to re-establish radio contact with Owan, only to be met with total silence. Finally, the front doors open. The body of Abbas Lavasani, the embassy's chief press officer, is shoved out onto the concrete steps alongside a final ultimatum. The militants will execute the remaining captives in exactly 30 minutes unless their demands are met.
Means after the deadline, we will kill everybody, all the hostages.
Inside the government crisis center, all debate comes to an immediate end. Margaret Thatcher's red line has been crossed, and the British government officially accepts the tactical projection of 40% casualties. As the police step down from the negotiating table, operational control is handed directly to Lieutenant Colonel Michael Rose and the SAS. Operation Nimrod is officially greenlit. The assault blueprint requires absolute synchronization, with Red Team descending from the roof and Blue Team attacking from the ground, both ordered to detonate their breach charges at the exact same millisecond. But as the teams move into position, the first signs of synchronization failure begin to emerge. At 7:23 p.m., the code word Hyde Park signals Red Team to hitch up their ropes, while Blue Team moves quietly into position at the back doors. 2 minutes later, the final authorization, London Bridge, is radioed to the operators. Operation Nimrod begins with a massive diversionary explosion blowing through the second-floor skylight. This blast is designed to mask the simultaneous breaches of both assault teams, throwing the militants into a state of shock before the operators even cross the threshold. As Red Team abseils down the building, an SAS operator becomes snagged in his rope. He hangs completely exposed, dangling directly above a second-floor window. His position creates a catastrophic tactical problem. The assault team cannot use their explosive breach charges on the reinforced glass. Detonating them would kill their own man. Forced to abandon the primary plan, the operators smash the thick glass with sledgehammers and hurl stun grenades inside, while snipers on adjacent rooftops begin firing CS tear gas into the building.
There was a tinkling of glass, and this then plunged seemingly about the same time. The embassy went into darkness, and then flashbangs started to go off, and it clearly, it sounded though the World War was starting.
The flashbangs detonate, but the intense heat instantly ignites the window curtains, sending a wall of fire ripping through the entry point. The stranded operator, still tangled in his rope, can't escape the flames and is badly burned. Sergeant Tommy Palmer forces his way through the shattered frame directly into the flames. He pushes forward, leading his 4-man team into the blinding darkness of the embassy. Watching the operation unfold, Director Peter de la Billière instantly realizes the assault is unraveling. Red Team and Blue Team have failed to synchronize. The element of surprise is gone, and the embassy interior has transformed into a burning, smoke-filled labyrinth. The clinical, mathematical precision of the killing house has vanished. Through the blinding smoke and chemical gas, survival no longer depends on a master plan. It relies entirely on raw, brutal reflex. Inside the blinding fog of chemical gas and smoke, Sergeant Tommy Palmer pushes deeper into the building. As he clears the initial entryway, he spots a militant dousing the carpet with kerosene. Palmer raises his MP5 submachine gun and squeezes the trigger, only for the weapon to jam. The MP5 is the finest close-quarters combat weapon in the world, but in this specific millisecond, it is a deadweight. The split-second mechanical failure forces Palmer to transition instantly to his sidearm. He drops the useless rifle, pulls his Browning pistol, and drops the militant with a single round to the head. Hearing the explosions and gunfire on the upper floors, the three militants guarding the telex room realize they are under military assault. Stripped of all options, they turn their weapons directly onto the captive embassy staff and open fire indiscriminately into the crowded space. The execution has begun. One male hostage is killed instantly, and two others fall wounded as bullets tear through the small room. Palmer's team breaches the telex room door seconds later, charging into the immediate aftermath of the gunfire, where the surviving militants are desperately trying to blend into the huddle of terrified hostages. One of them rises to throw a grenade but is shot by an SAS operator. Another is lying on the ground but is discovered and shot when he also attempts to detonate a grenade. Palmer and the SAS team begin evacuating the hostages out of the telex room, not knowing that one of the militants is hidden among them. The immediate execution threats inside the telex room are dead, but the chaotic environment means the operators cannot verify who is a captive and who is a combatant. Palmer and his team immediately begin shepherding the survivors out of the room and toward the main staircase, unaware that one final militant has already slipped into the line of retreating hostages. While the upper levels turn into a firefight, Blue Team breaches the ground floor rear doors under the command of Staff Sergeant Peter Winner, clearing the entryway and driving deep into the building. The darkness inside is absolute, creating severe sensory overload for the operators, who are moving through thick chemical gas with weapons drawn. Descending toward the cellar with fingers tight on their triggers, Winner spots a crouching human silhouette in a pitch-black corner and empties an entire magazine into the threat, only to discover during the post-assault inspection that he has shot up a metal dustbin. BBC employee Sim Harris manages to escape his captors, stepping onto the first-floor balcony just as Blue Team detonates a frame charge on the reinforced windows. Harris survives the blast completely uninjured, scrambling over the ledge to safety. But inside the adjacent room, Diplomatic Constable Trevor Locke is fighting for his life.
When I heard the explosion and I realised things were happening, and my object was to prevent him doing what he'd been threatening for the past 4 or 5 days.
Locke had occupied the center of the hostage group for 6 days, carefully concealing his police revolver from the militants. The moment the diversionary explosion shook the skylight, Locke leveraged the distraction to tackle the militant leader, wrestling the armed gunman to the floor in a desperate bid to draw his weapon. Owen quickly gains the upper hand in the struggle, pinning the constable and raising his weapon to execute him. Just as he prepares to pull the trigger, an SAS operator bursts through the door, neutralizes Owen with a fatal burst from his MP5. Locke and Harris are immediately routed into the evacuation chain, and with the primary terrorist leadership eliminated, the remaining operators rush to clear the cipher room, where the female hostages are held entirely unharmed. The assault teams begin shepherding the survivors down the main staircase, driving the crowd toward the rear exit as heavy smoke completely blinds the evacuation corridor. Staff Sergeant Peter Winner stands along the extraction route, physically counting the heads to ensure no one is left behind in the burning interior. Suddenly, Staff Sergeant Winner notices the hidden militant among them with a grenade in his hand. He drives his MP5 forward, bashing the militant directly in the face with the heavy steel receiver and sending him crashing down the stairwell. As the gunman hits the lower landing, still clutching the grenade, 2 SAS operators waiting at the bottom, tracking his fall. They open fire with tight, controlled bursts into him, neutralizing him on the floor before the safety lever can release. The survivors are pushed out into the back garden, where they are immediately ordered onto the wet grass, forced into a row, and bound with plastic handcuffs to await formal identification. The environment remains highly insecure, as police snipers maintain their positions on the rooftops, fully aware that one operative from the 6-man cell is still unaccounted for. Sim Harris, still recovering from the blast on the balcony, scans the faces of the bound individuals on the lawn, and suddenly points to a man lying nearby, identifying him as the final militant. Cops immediately break from the perimeter, dragging the suspect away into custody as the realization sets in that the shooting has finally stopped. Operation Nimrod is officially over, concluding exactly 17 minutes after the first diversionary charge tore through the skylight. 17 minutes of raw violence, broadcast live to millions of television screens, permanently redefines the doctrine of modern counterterrorism. As the smoke clears over South Kensington, the forensic tally begins. Of the 26 hostages originally held inside the building, 24 survive. Abbas Lavasani was executed before the assault, while Ali Akbar Samadzadeh was killed after the gunmen opened fire on the male hostages during the opening moments of the SAS assault. For the militants, the operational mathematics are absolute. 5 of the 6 gunmen are dead, while the lone survivor is quietly absorbed into the British prison system under a life sentence. The SAS suffers 0 fatalities. On the global stage, the strategic calculation yields an ironclad precedent. By refusing to compromise or allow the gunmen to leave British soil, Margaret Thatcher demonstrates that the state will answer asymmetric threats with overwhelming, lethal force. The original projection of 40% casualties was averted not by luck, but by sheer tactical aggression. The successful resolution of the siege instantly catapults the SAS from a classified, low-profile counterinsurgency unit into the universal gold standard for hostage rescue operations. Foreign militaries immediately begin tearing down their old structures to replicate the regiment, adopting their specialized gear, their close-quarters tactics, and their black kit aesthetic. But as the media trucks pack up and the structural ruins of the embassy are boarded up, a darker domestic reality takes root. For decades, the SAS operated strictly as a phantom element of the British military. Deep reconnaissance, jungle warfare, 17 minutes in front of live global news cameras erased that secrecy forever. Stepping out of the smoke of South Kensington, the regiment defined an entirely new era of urban combat. The black Nomex suits, the MP5 submachine guns, the synchronized explosive breaches. This instantly became the universal blueprint for hostage rescue worldwide. But military strategists do not study the Iranian Embassy siege for its flawless execution. They study it for the friction. No plan survives first contact with the enemy. Operation Nimrod proved that even the most elite unit on the planet cannot engineer the chaos out of a firefight. The assault was designed with mathematical perfection inside the killing house. Yet within 60 seconds of the launch code, an operator was helplessly tangled on a rope. The building caught fire. Weapons jammed at the exact point of contact. The line separating a historic victory from a catastrophic failure did not exist on a commander's whiteboard. It existed in the split-second decisions of soldiers fighting blind through toxic gas. It was a sergeant drawing his sidearm when his primary weapon failed in a burning hallway. It was a specialist using his rifle as a blunt instrument to stop a live grenade on a crowded staircase. Operation Nimrod became one of the most celebrated hostage rescue missions in history. But if just one more thing had gone wrong, would history remember it as a masterpiece or a catastrophe? Let us know your analysis in the comments below. Don't forget to hit like, subscribe to the channel, and click the notification bell so you never miss our upcoming dramatic breakdowns. Goodbye and see you next time.